Hello, and welcome back to How to Be an Acton Parent podcast. We've officially moved How to Be an Acton Parent off of just Instagram Reels, and now we have a podcast where I sit down with current heroes to discuss the challenges of being a parent at an Acton. The goal is to give you a deeper look into what is happening here at Acton and to offer insights on how you can best support your hero as they navigate their journey towards finding a calling to change the world. Today, I'm joined by two incredible heroes. We have Gramm, a junior, and Giana, a sophomore. Together, we're going to be diving into one of the biggest questions parents tend to have at a self-paced, student-led environment. How is my child motivated to complete hard things, to do things that they may not like? How do they stay motivated in a self-paced, student-led environment? So I will go ahead and turn my questions over to you two. Just kind of general, how are heroes motivated to do hard work at Acton?
Well, there's actually a lot of ways that heroes can be motivated. For example, a really simple one that we have is OtterBucks. So at the end of every session, depending on the amount of badges that we get, we earn this Acton currency called OtterBucks, and that allows us to buy snacks, or we can, in other studios, you can buy little toys or pens, stuff like that. So a lot of the heroes are motivated that way because they want to be able to buy these things or get snacks during the day. But other ways that we're motivated is points. We earn those through doing challenges, and that will help us earn certain studio maintenance jobs that we want, and all of these different positions that you can get through measuring points.
Okay, so the work that you're doing is correlated to a big game, is what I'm hearing that you guys are playing all the time. Okay, awesome. What, you mentioned the buck store. What items in the buck store are motivating for you two?
I would say the drinks that we have. So in Launchpad, we have coffee and energy drinks.
Okay.
And those are usually the things that I lean towards the most. But I know a lot of other people like the little snacks that we have, like the cookies or the chips.
Got it. And just being able to buy something during the day, you know, as like an adult would be able to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. What about exhibition? Tell us a little bit about exhibition. Does that play into motivation for you guys? What is it, and how does it motivate you?
Exhibition is where we showcase all of our work to the parents. So once a session, at the end, all of the parents will come in, and it's just the one day that we get the opportunity to show off all of the work and everything that we accomplished and everything that we learned. So a way that heroes are motivated there is they want to show up their best for the parents and the people who are watching. It's not a bad pressure, but it's a pressure to show up as your best because maybe you'll feel disappointed in yourself if you don't.
Got it. So it's kind of that public stress of, I think about like when I need to give a presentation or something that I need to have done good work and to feel confident in that. Does it feel similar to that for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would also say for me, it's showing up for like the other parents, not just my own, to show like what future heroes will learn in Launchpad, not just what my parents are learning. So obviously my parents are coming, taking time out of their day, very valuable, but it's also important for me to show up for every parent so they know like what their hero is leading into.
Showing them the whole journey and what that looks like. Awesome. How about freedom levels? What are freedom levels? I know we're kind of going through a lot of things pretty quickly, but can you just touch on what freedom levels are, and do you feel motivated by them or not?
So freedom levels are levels that we set in the studio where, depending on the amount of work that you take on, you get that freedom in return. So if you get a certain number of badges, you get a certain 360 score, which we'll talk about in a sec. Depending on all of those scores and the amount that you got done during the session, you get a freedom level in return, and the higher your level is, the more freedom you have. So the highest level, you can have your phone on you more freely than a freedom level 1. Or freedom level 4, you can go off campus with the right permissions, and freedom level 1 obviously can't. So in order to get the freedoms that you want, you have to work for it, and in turn, that's a big motivator.
Got it. Yeah, watching your friends going off campus and you don't get to. Yeah, that would be a bummer. I would want to go. Where do you guys like to go?
I would say most heroes like go off for lunch to get food. I've never really heard of anything other than that.
Okay, nice. Let's talk about Earned Friday fun and Launchpad, or passions in Discovery, Threshold, and Sparks. What is that a motivator for you guys, or what does that look like?
So Earn Friday Fun is basically where we get 75% of our challenges done before Friday, so then we can have about an hour of free time or to do something we want. So in the past we've done passions, cooking. So all the heroes in Launchpad decided to cook some brownies and protein brownies. Didn't end up too well, didn't taste too well, but it was really fun.
The protein maybe threw it off a little bit.
So we spent about that time and then lunch time, combined it, and we spent like all day together, just kind of like doing something fun.
Got it.
It was a big motivator.
Yeah, the group and social time coming together. And what I'm hearing too is it's not that somebody is telling you to be motivated or making you be motivated, but there's just things in place that you're wanting, and so then you're just naturally then figuring out what you need to do in order to get it. Okay, interesting. Let's talk a little bit about what happens these are a lot of positive reinforcements, right? A lot of great things that you're working towards. Sometimes though people mess up. Sometimes there's mistakes that are made, and what kind of helps that motivation of avoiding that, or even kind of being able to identify patterns or areas of growth that are needed?
One way that we measure growth or patterns is the card pull system, but we also have the buck pull system. So card pulls are the bigger out of the two. You get that when you don't meet a big deadline or you break part of the contract. But buck pulls we use for smaller things. It really depends based off of what you missed. But buck pulls, if you get 3 in a row, that's a card pull, and it's usually if we see a pattern. So if you get 3 very similar or the same buck pulls, then that's a card pull. So that's a way to figure out a pattern that you need to fix without it being quite as severe as, say, a card pull.
So they're varying degrees, is
Yes.
what I'm hearing. So the little minor mistakes, there's a certain level that isn't too terrible, but then it can kind of escalate or build. Okay. And to my understanding, this buck pull system is actually unique to your studio. Can you speak to that opportunity that heroes have with these kinds of systems? Like, are they always set in stone? Do you have ability to help shape these consequences and systems? And why did you choose to create it the way that you did?
So I'm the card pull manager, so
Perfect.
I'm really familiar with these systems. But when, say, there's a card pull that is not black and white, it's usually there's a gray area, and when there is that, you can talk to the council and talk about whether that card pull was fair, should it be appealed, can I make a plan to help appeal that and still improve myself and acknowledge that mistake, but also figure out a way to fix that. There's a lot of different ways with that. At the beginning of the year, we also have the first full session to actually make our contract. So all of the heroes have a say in what goes on the contract, what we should value versus just put in the subcontract, and all of that really lets all of the heroes come in and make it their own, so they all agree.
Okay, so everybody's part of creating that process initially.
Yeah.
What if it's past session 1 and maybe some issues weren't caught in session 1 when the system was being created, and you guys notice it's either too punitive or maybe it's too loose? Is there an opportunity to shift that, and how much power do you guys have in that?
We still have a power, but we typically don't establish it right away, I guess, unless it's like a pretty large problem. We have town halls, which it's like every Friday or Thursday, just depending on what's going on through the week, where we sit down for about an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, depending on what's on our schedule, and we really reestablish a system if we need to, or if we need to make a new system, that's the time to really dedicate it. So yeah.
Okay, so if a hero might be losing motivation in that card pull system, there's a way to find that motivation to be part of the change. Okay, and then one last piece, 360 reviews. Giana, you mentioned that earlier. Those are a little more indirect, but how are 360s? Gramm, you in particular in the studio like to talk about 360s. You seem very motivated by them.
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
So 360s used to not be such a big deal. I don't think we even did them like my first year here.
Okay.
So 360s became a thing. So to get a certain freedom level, you have to get a certain percentage or rating. So like 7.5 and above is like freedom level 3, which people tend to strive for, just because freedom level 3 is like the sweet spot. But everyone's trying to get to 4, so everyone's working there. But 360s are like a big motivator for me, especially. Just because not only do I want a higher freedom level, I also want to like show up good for the studio. So I'm constantly like reminding my like peers, which started as a joke, like, oh, I need my civility to get higher. So like it was just a joke, and now it's like came like so like in my head, like came like just like I need to do it. So I'm like really motivated by them now, and I'm always like asking heroes how I can like show up better or like improve my scores. So
got it. Can you explain a little bit about the process of 360s just for people that are brand new to them? And so how do you get those scores? You know, is this attacking people? Like, what does that process look like?
So Journey Tracker, which is like a online program we have for ourselves to, it's really like where all of our work is and where we fill out our 360 forms. There's like a whole set survey, and it basically has 4 different things: integrity, how hard you work, civility, and excellence of work. And based out of 10, we fill out for each hero in our studio. Especially for us, we have a smaller studio, so we're able to rate everyone. But we rate everyone on a scale from 1 to 10, and based on what you write, you're always supposed to be giving warm feedback and cool feedback, because unless you give someone a 10, which no one's perfect, but there's always room for people to grow, but everyone also has a positive impact on the studio. So you're also like making sure that they feel like they're doing something and showing how they can improve.
So I think for the younger studios, it's really helpful for the heroes to take home some of their work, and with the parents, if they're in a younger studio, kind of try to measure how long everything takes. So if you take your math program home, or no reading, so language arts, just do some work at home and see how long it takes, so then you and your parent, especially if you're in a younger studio, can help sort of plan out what you should be doing and how you should manage your time, so that by the time they're in Discovery and Launchpad, they know how to manage their own time and know, okay, I have to take work home today, or no, I don't, because I finished everything in the studio. And for Discovery, that kind of goes back and forth, where some days, oh, I don't have to take home work today. I was super productive, and I know that I have free time and I'll be caught up for tomorrow. Versus sometimes, especially during science quests, you know that you have to take work home in order to stay on track or get ahead. And especially in Launchpad, you have to be aware of taking home work, because it's inevitable, especially for the busier sessions.
Got it. So it's sounding like a little bit of support and guidance in the beginning can really set them up to be able to take this on themselves. Yes. But to go from not knowing at all to then completely independent is pretty challenging, especially when they're that little. But what I'm hearing from you is just some questions and some checking in and a little bit of structure or scaffolding, as we would call it, in child development initially, but then it's not taking away from their student-led choices. When you were younger, did you start off kind of your goals being a certain way and then really find your own stride in being able to establish them yourselves independently?
So kind of just going back, I've been at Acton this is my 5th year. So when we started, we didn't really have goals, and we were doing everything from like Google Classroom before we even went to Journey Tracker. But when we actually started that program, it was nice because we had like a whole structure of what SMART goals are: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and then timeliness. So I really didn't like it at first. It was like really time consuming, just because I was probably starting out. And I think about a year later, I really was like, oh wow, this helps me the most. And then it was like, if you were the right freedom level and clearly like demonstrated like you knew how to set set goals properly, you could like write it like a sentence format. And I tried that, and it just wasn't for me.
Mm.
So the SMART goals like really broke down what I'm doing and how I'm gonna do it. So it kind of just gave me that structure for the day on how I like really set my goals.
Okay. And something that I've heard from the both of you is that this process takes time. It takes figuring out what works for you, maybe making some mistakes, maybe getting some of those card pulls that you mentioned before. Card pulls, tend to feel like the end of the world, but sometimes it's just a way to show you where there's an opportunity to grow. But I'm hearing that it takes time, that parents shouldn't panic right away if things aren't moving quickly or the hero doesn't feel equipped. But also maybe that's a time to kind of sit down and see and map things out together, maybe give them a little bit of support. Excellent. So we have time for one last question. Is there anything your parents did to help motivate you, or how do they support the in-studio systems at home?
One thing my parents did was just at dinner every night, they would ask, what did you do today?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like such a simple question, but it can lead into so many follow-up questions about what I'm doing at school and what I got done versus things I need to catch up on. And just those little check-ins and making sure your hero is up to speed with what they need to do or how you can support them if they're not is really important. And you can do that in so many different ways. Like, oh, I'm driving you to your after-school activity. I can ask you about this. Or at family dinner, if you have that. You can do it in so many little ways that it doesn't seem like such a big thing, but it really helps either remind your hero or tell them that you care and you're paying attention to what they're doing. And even, especially for the younger heroes, making sure can I look at your journey tracker with you and checking that their goals are green. Or as they get older, making sure they're on track, because especially for Launchpad, they will have not red goals, but incomplete challenges at the end of the day, and you just have to trust them, but also check in with them to make sure that I can catch up with this after school or the next day, depending on what they actually have.
Okay. Can I ask you both, when your parents ask you what you did today, what would you recommend to parents if the hero responds and just says, I don't know, or nothing? Or if they say, how was school today? And they say, it was good. A lot of parents just get really minimal responses. So are there certain questions that your parents asked or certain things that they could ask that you could recommend to really kind of help get that hero maybe past those typical, oh, it was good responses to actually diving into some of these things that you're talking about?
I would say a lot of like the more important questions should start in the morning. That's what me and my mom used to do. I used to drive with my mom like an hour every day to school. So it'd be like mostly about like school.
Committed.
Yeah. But it would be like, what goals do you have for the day? Which really like set like your hero up. But then after school, it's like, did you accomplish those? Or like, do you have any goals for tomorrow, like that you didn't finish today? Or what do you have to go and do when you get home? So then it's like, your parents know what you have to do, but still like a part, I guess.
Got it. So really specific questions, it sounds like. Would your parents check in with you just on goals, or would they also ask you about quest, genre, and civ and your progress on those?
Yeah, so my mom typically asks like what's going on with like quests, or like what did we do for quest today? For instance, we had like a simulation and she asked like what happened. So it's very important to like figure out what they're doing and if they're enjoying it or not, so then you can like help provide like that assistance if needed.
Okay. Would you guys be willing to kind of give a list of like, so check in with goals, check in with quest, genre, civ, was coming to mind, leadership. What are some of the things that parents, those specific questions, to maybe give some of them a list? I know we have the cards, but not everybody has the cards. What really specific questions could they ask?
I think one very specific thing, I mean, it depends for every hero, so I couldn't give you like a word for word sentence,
Okay.
But figuring out the things that your hero doesn't like to do. So for me, especially in 7th and 8th grade, I hated math. I despised it, and I always procrastinated it. And so when my mom would ask me, oh, how's math going? It would remind me that, oh, I actually have to do that, and I should probably get on that. So not targeting the things that they don't like, but kind of slipping them into conversations so that they remember that, oh, I actually have to do that, and that's a requirement. That
Got
can
it.
really help.
Yeah, so you're seeing there's less of a need to check in on the things that they're enjoying and like to do. It's actually the ones that they don't like that actually need the attention.
Yeah.
It's great advice. Okay. Well, that's all we have time for today. We understand it's hard to do things that we don't want to do, and it's a journey to learn how to motivate ourselves, whether it's intrinsic, extrinsically, or both. Thank you both for sharing your insights. Now we'd love to hear from you as the Acton parents. What questions do you have about Acton and how it works day to day? What parts of the experience could use a little more clarity for you, especially those that the heroes can answer themselves? So we have an email, or you can even DM us on Instagram. You can send your questions our way to howtobeanactonparentpodcast@actonplacer.com. And join us next time as we dive into all things apprenticeships, honor codes. We want to dive into the card pulls a little bit more, and why Launchpad. Join us next time as we dive into all things apprenticeships, honor codes, card pulls even, and why Launchpad. We'll also explore how heroes hold each other accountable while aiming for new heights. So thank you so much for listening to How to Be an Acton Parent, and we'll hope to see you again next time.